Just before we get into this video, guys, if you want to follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, the links are here. And if you also want to support me on Patreon as well and help out my channel, that would be absolutely awesome as well. But let's get on with the video. Hey guys, it is Wingy here and welcome to the start of a brand new mini-series on my channel. It's something that is often debated between comic book fans, whether or not Marvel or DC is the superior superhero makers, I guess. Now, I personally know my own opinion. I know what I would say if somebody asked me this question. However, what I wanted to do was a little bit of a mini-series talking about the sort of three main things that DC and Marvel have. So the comic books, the TV shows, and the movies. I know that there's games and there's all sorts of stuff, basically. But I thought they were the three main things, and I want to sort of break down and compare the two and see which I think is better individually, and then maybe I'll realise that, whoa, my actual opinion actually isn't what I think. But I also want to do this to gauge what you guys think as well, whether or not you guys prefer DC or Marvel. To be honest, I don't really like the rivalry, but I understand it. Both have their merits, both have their flaws. Both, I think, are better than the other in certain aspects, as I will sort of talk about in this series. However, this first time out, as you can tell from the title and thumbnail, we are going to be talking specifically about the TV shows. Now, I'm not really going to talk about every single TV show that both Marvel and DC have produced, including cartoons. I'm not going to talk about cartoons. And the reason being is because, one, I've not seen them all, and two, there's so many to talk about, we'd be here for ages. So what this is basically going to boil down to is the CW Arrowverse shows versus the Marvel Netflix stuff and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because they're the main things that I have recent interactions with, recent memories of, so my mind is fresh. Like I say, I haven't watched every single show that either of these two have produced. So if we're going to go back to the 90s and talk about the 90s Flash or the Hulk TV show from like the 70s or 80s, like, there's no point. But let's start off with then Marvel first, I think. Now, I remember when the trailers dropped for the Netflix Daredevil show, and I was really excited because Daredevil is one of those heroes to me that is never going to be one of the main players. He's never going to be the main guy. He's not going to be the forefront of Marvel, but I really think that he's an interesting character. The fact that he's a blind superhero is awesome. I love that. His suit is awesome. He's got some really amazing stories in the comics as well. So I was really curious to see how that would translate to the small screen. Obviously, the Ben Affleck movie was not popular. And you've also got something like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. Now, all of these are supposedly set in the MCU, in the movie universe, and I thought that's quite an interesting dynamic to go. You've got these major players, such as your Captain Americas and your Iron Mans, and then you've got your street level heroes, which is kind of similar to what I was just saying about Daredevil then. The fact that you've got Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, they're never going to be main players in the Avengers, so you may as well just explore them in a different venture like this. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., going back to that for a sec, never really caught me. I never really got into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It kind of irritated me how they never really felt part of the MCU. I mean, obviously you had Clark Gregg, he came back, but apart from that and like a few cameos from people here and there, I mean, I know Samuel L. Jackson appeared a couple of times maybe, and Colby Smulders did, and there was a couple of references here and there like, oh, this is the cleanup from Age of Ultron, or, you know, something like that. It never really felt like its own show. It always felt like it was quite restricted to what is going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, it might have changed later on, but I didn't keep watching personally. And so for a show like that, I thought it could have been really interesting to see S.H.I.E.L.D. and how they cope on a day-to-day basis, because every other week the world is fucking ending because Captain America is lobbing his shield at some Nazi and Iron Man is shooting pulsar lasers at someone else and all this sort of stuff. But these are the people who have to clean it up. For me, it didn't quite work. But then you've got the Netflix stuff, which is more kind of what I wanted. It is street level heroes. It's essentially what the MCU is doing, but on a much smaller scale. And for a lot of reasons, I thought that could work, and I thought it could be incredibly beneficial, and it got off to an incredible start. Daredevil season 1, I thought was borderline flawless. Jessica Jones season 1, I also thought was borderline flawless. If anything, I actually did prefer Jessica Jones season 1 to Daredevil season 1. But the problem is with these Netflix shows is they went downhill rapidly. Daredevil season 2 was good. It wasn't as good as the previous season, but it was still very much enjoyable. Luke Cage was decent. Iron Fist was entertaining enough, but it didn't hold my attention, and then they all sort of culminated together and became the Defenders, and that was a major letdown for me. It was such a boring show when it's supposed to be about these heroes teaming up together, and it just didn't capture me at all. Don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of great stuff about these shows, particularly early on, and especially in each of the first seasons of the respective shows, maybe not the Defenders but the individuals, they definitely had some really great moments. Iron Fist is a whiny bitch though. We're not getting past that. I mean, I've met a guy, he seems alright, but still, like, he's got an American accent, which I thought was weird, because he's English. Like, you might be over there a lot of the time, but don't forget where you came from, sunshine. Know what I mean? But these shows, I think, really went downhill pretty quick, which was a shame. And not only that, again, sort of with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you know that they're in the MCU, but they don't really feel like they're part of it in any way, shape or form, you know, apart from a few references here and there. And even then, they're not major ones. They talk about the alien invasion, but they refer to it as like the event or something like that. Just fucking say aliens came down from the sky. Like, everyone's so coy about it. It's well weird. Action wise, performance wise, I think a lot of these shows are fantastic. Iron Fist not so much. The cast isn't great overall, and I think the action is actually fucking terrible. But Daredevil in particular, Luke Cage as well was quite decent, although Luke Cage did something well annoying where it killed off an amazing character and then swapped the villain out for someone who is not as interesting. Like, why the fuck would you do that? I gave up these shows incredibly quick. One of the reasons is because it was in a period of like gritty reboots of stuff. They started off quite well, but eventually they get a bit tedious and they get a bit tiring, and it was just such a shame because these shows started to take themselves a little bit too seriously at a point where you've got a man dressed in a red suit with horns, a guy who is bulletproof, a guy who can, you know, summon like a dragon or some shit in his fist. You've got this woman who has incredible superpowers and is also like a drunk and all this sort of stuff. You can't take that too seriously, and these shows did. Which leads me to DC. Now, again, the Arrowverse is not perfect whatsoever. Weirdly, I actually started with The Flash. I didn't actually watch Arrow when it came out. It was only when they did a crossover in like episode 8 that I was like, maybe I should watch Arrow. So in like the mid-season break after episode 9, I was just like, right, well, I'm going to use this time before the shows come back to catch up on Arrow. And that meant watching 2 and a bit seasons of Arrow, which was well worth the watch. Again, with these shows, they go downhill relatively quickly, but not as quickly as the Marvel shows. What I also think is brilliant about these shows is Arrow started it all off. His show starts off, again, kind of like those Netflix shows. It's gritty, it's realistic. Is it done as well in terms of choreography, tone, acting as the Netflix stuff? No. But what it is, it's a template for everything that would follow on from it. You've got this character in Oliver Queen who, alright, the comparisons are fair. They are essentially doing a Batman ripoff. They are doing a Batman show, but with Green Arrow instead of Batman. Not all the time, and I think they do make use of Oliver's trick arrows a hell of a lot in certain seasons and episodes. Not all the time, it's quite frustrating at times. But overall, you know, it still feels like a comic booky show that is in the real world. It doesn't really feel too serious. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And then of course, when you start introducing metahumans like Barry Allen, for example, then the shows as a whole tend to move to a more lighter tone and a more comic booky vibe, which is what I love about the Arrowverse. The Arrowverse for me is incredibly frustrating because the quality sometimes does not match what has gone before. I mean, Arrow seasons 1 and 2, absolutely fantastic. The Flash season 1, controversial statement here, I would personally say is the best season out of any of these that I've mentioned, including the Marvel stuff. The Flash season 1 is incredible. Again, acting, choreography, it's not amazing. A lot of the time it is just people going like, Barry, just run a bit faster, you can do it. Run, Barry, run. And he does. Considering that he's the fastest man alive, He needs to be told that an awful fucking lot. But you've got a cast of likeable characters who've got good rapport, they've got good chemistry, unlike the Defenders. You've even got Stephen Amell and Grant Gustin playing their respective characters that will cross over every now and again, and they have great chemistry. This universe that it built for itself feels like an intimate universe, so it's not just making a reference to, you know, Captain America's shield here or Iron Man there. This universe feels like at any moment these characters can pop across. So in The Flash, for example, Felicity will pop up, Ray Palmer will pop up, they'll go over to Star City for a little bit, they'll go to Supergirl's Earth. In Arrow, he'll call up Barry every now and again and do a favour. Side characters will cross over. You've also got the Legends of Tomorrow, who started off as characters in these respective shows, and it gradually just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it essentially became the MCU of TV, but obviously with DC characters. Arrow went downhill pretty quick. Season 3 is okay, it's not amazing, but it's not terrible. Season 4 is a fucking travesty of a season, and anyone who put that out and thought it was good, fuck you. And also anyone who watched it and thought it was good, fuck you. But Season 5, that was mint. I really liked Season 5. Supergirl, I'm not majorly keen on. I watched all of Season 2, that was overall decent, not great, but not enough to keep me watching still. Legends of Tomorrow, that was really cool. You've got characters like Black Lightning, he's really cool. You know, you've got all these different characters, and it feels like, again, like the MCU, like this universe has been built, and it's not perfect, it is goofy, it is cheesy, but that's what comic books are. And I think that's why for this video, I mean, based on the way that I've spoken about it, you can kind of tell, but for TV, I'm gonna give it to DC. It feels like what you're watching on screen, and there are definitely moments in some of these TV shows that are literally lifted from the comic books. They're not perfect, they're not identical, they're not literally translating the pages of a comic book to the screen, but they do a good enough job where I just love it, and I get addicted and I get hooked. And I remember when I first started watching these shows that I had to sit and watch them as soon as I could. You know, they're broadcast later on in the year in the UK, but I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna torrent them because I have to keep watching them. If anyone asks at the CW, I didn't say that, and I was just kidding. I allegedly streamed them illegally. I didn't. Yeah. I'm gonna get fucking sued. And again, it's not like it was building up to a major crossover in another series like the Defenders. The fact that these guys cross over constantly, every season, you know, you've got the first one, which is Arrow versus Flash, which is mint. You see them fighting against each other, that's fucking awesome. And then you've got them teaming up, fighting against Captain Boomerang. And then the next year, what was it the next year? I think they're setting up the Legends of Tomorrow, and they've got Vandal Savage, and you get introduced to Hawkman and Hawkgirl, who ended up as shit, but they were alright at the time. And you get like Rip Hunter, and Ray Palmer's back, and you get introduced to Firestorm. And then later on, you know, Supergirl comes into it, and there's alien invasions. And right this year, we've just had Crisis on Infinite Earths, which overall I think was okay. It was a major disappointment for what it is compared to the comics, but at the same time it was fucking awesome seeing DC go all balls out and just be like, you know what, fuck it, yes, we have multiple different versions of multiple different characters, we're just gonna stick them all in the same fucking thing. You want to talk about, you know, the movies and where do they fit into everything? Oh, you should have just got Grant Gustin in the movies. Well, you probably could now because Ezra Miller has appeared in The Flash. That's fucking awesome. You've also got characters from like the 66 Batman series. You've got Burt Ward making an appearance. You've got all these different characters from, you know, Batman 1989, and you've got Brandon Routh back as Superman, and you've got this guy turning up and this character turning up and this person turning up, and it's just fucking amazing how they did that. And obviously that is fan service, that is fan wank, but at the end of the day, as a fan, when you've got all these characters crossing over with one another, that's exactly what you want. You also want a good story as well, and Crisis on Infinite Earths overall didn't really do that, but I was fine with what we got. I was perfectly fine with what we got, more so than I was the Defenders. In terms of comic book accuracy as well, these shows are not that. Obviously, like I say, Green Arrow is essentially Batman. The Flash is, to be honest, at first he's obviously learning, so you can sort of forgive him a little bit, but a lot of the time Barry is fucking dumbass. Supergirl's pretty cool. I don't know why she can beat Superman all the time though. That's bit odd. Martian Manhunter, totally wasted. The Legends got really goofy and really annoying fairly quickly, but Legends Season 1 is really good as well. But yeah, these shows, they make me feel something that the Marvel shows didn't do. I didn't really connect with the characters or the universe. I didn't really like the fact that they distanced themselves, yet also were adamant that they were part of the same universe as a Thor and Hulk and Black Widow and Doctor Strange and all these characters. It didn't really feel right, whereas this was just balls to the fucking wall. And again, I said it before, Flash Season 1 on its own would probably beat all of Marvel anyway. I love it that much. I fucking love it that much. So yeah, round 1, TV, I'm giving it to DC. In the comments below though, guys, let me know what you think. I imagine this is probably going to be a controversial opinion, but do you agree with me? DC better at TV, or do you still think that Marvel is? Obviously I could have included so much more, but I've not watched everything. I'm not including cartoons because one, I haven't seen them all, and cartoons are slightly different to me anyway because they're more aimed at kids. Either way, whatever your opinion is, let me know in the comments below. The next time I talk about this, Marvel or DC, I'm probably going to be mentioning the movies, so you can kind of guess where I'm going with that one. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe for more. Social media and Patreon links will be in the description below as always, so if you'd follow me on any of those things, I would absolutely love you forever. But till next time guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye.